Goldsmiths, University of London. Founded in 1891, the respected South London institution has a reputation for having produced some of Britain's most successful creatives, and its art degrees are consistently ranked highly across the board. Earlier this year, however, it released the findings of a years-long independent investigation into anti-Semitism at the university, following reports of anti-Jewish racism targeting students and staff. The report confirmed what the Jewish community had long known. Jews at Goldsmiths were facing anti-Semitism, and the university failed in its duty of care for them. Our own polling of the Jewish community shows that only 3% of British Jews are confident that if a Jewish student reported an anti-Semitic incident on campus, the university's administration would take appropriate action. To put a face to these reports and statistics, I spoke with a former Goldsmiths student, Jane, whose name has been changed to protect her identity, and Sarah, Campaign Against Antisemitism's education and outreach officer. I wanted to find out for myself what exactly was going on.
It was really hard when I started at university. I actually didn't realise that there were many Jewish people, and I think this report kind of may explain why I felt so isolated originally. After October the 7th, everything kind of heightened and escalated. I'm sure as many university students would say this, I lost a lot of friends. It became really hard, really isolating, and really scary. At points I even questioned wearing a mug in David. And throughout my university experience, through the JSOC and everything else, I felt as a Jew, I kind of felt isolated, challenged. I felt like it was hard to be there.
When you and other members of the JSOC raised your concerns with staff at Goldsmiths, how did that go?
I felt like when we did raise it, we were just met with meetings and no action. Nothing came about it, no changes happened. I felt like there was a space to share, but not a space to be listened to, and not a place for action. And I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think we were sharing just to be heard, we were sharing to kind of have change.
Earlier this year, Goldsmiths University released the results of their independent anti-Semitism investigation. What did you think of the report?
I have really mixed feelings. Part of me, my first instinct was, wow, they've admitted that there's anti-Semitism on campus. But then when you read into it, you read their action points, their recommendations, you kind of look at it and you're like, what's going to happen for Jewish students? How is this going to help Jewish students? What changes are they going to make? Even the definition that they use for anti-Semitism, are they willing to hear a voice from a Jewish student? Thinking back to like when they were trying to do a meeting to do a change, they did it on Shabbos. And it's like for Jewish students, they knew that we couldn't attend, so we couldn't revoke it, we couldn't challenge it.
One of the 17 recommendations from the inquiry says, make the Jewish society aware when potentially harmful speakers are due to attend campus or when protests are due to take place, and consult with them as to the location of the event or protest. This may involve agreeing the boundaries of protests with their organisers. And in response, Goldsmiths has said that they will require advance confirmation of protest location, ensure Jewish students and staff are informed to ensure they can engage or avoid in ways which ensure safeguarding. So to me, that reads as though they will still allow potentially harmful speakers to come onto campus.
Yeah.
And instead of taking action against them, they're basically just going to give Jewish students and staff a heads up so they don't need to be in the area, come across them.
But I think that's wrong. I really think that's wrong. I think Jewish students should be allowed and should be able to go everywhere. It's like, actually, why are they letting harmful speakers in? Why are they classifying it harmful and then allowing and turning a blind eye to kind of this continuing? I like thinking about Jewish students. I remember there was a Jewish student who one of her lectures got stormed and she had a panic attack. And it's like, what are they doing? Okay, so they're going to notify people, but actually, how's that going to help Jewish students? Notifying isn't comforting them, providing a space, a safe space, right? Your lectures should be that safe space where you learn your subject and you can grow with your peers. It shouldn't be a space where all of this comes in.
This is a post not long after the October 7th attacks from Hamas. This is a post from the Islamic Society at Goldsmiths. And we conveyed to the children of Israel in the scripture that you surely will cause disruption on the earth twice, and you surely will reach a degree of great haughtiness. So when the time of promise came for the first of them, we sent against you servants of ours, those of great military might. And they probed even in the homes, and it was a promise fulfilled. When you saw that, how did you feel?
Yeah, I remember it was just after October the 7th, and I felt scared. I think it was the justification of violence. That's what it felt like to me. It was the justification of what happened of October the 7th. And as a Jew on campus, I felt scared. We raised, especially with the SU.
The student union.
Yeah, the student union, and they quoted the quote back to us, and they said that they're happy for a conversation with the ISOC, which we would have been happy to do and facilitate, and actually nothing came about it. We felt like our feelings and kind of that feelings of scared, loneliness, worry, and just they didn't kind of care about that. It was just kind of like, okay, this is what was said, this is kind of where it was from, okay, that's the outcome.
Due to safety concerns, the Jewish Society at Goldsmiths were forced to disband.
Yeah. Towards the end, we all resigned. We all left our post because we couldn't continue. It wasn't safe for us. At points, kind of the occupation took place in, I believe, 3 buildings. I know my lectures got cancelled. I know some of my friends' lectures and exams got postponed, and no action was taken. And it's kind of concerning that they waited until the actual Jewish Society got shut down before they do this report. I really do believe in proactiveness, and they're so proactive with a lot of things, and they claim to be really, really inclusive. But actually, where's the Jewish students? What's being done about them? Why are we waiting until there's huge reports about anti-Semitism and people coming forward and talking about their experience to kind of commission change?
I'm just absolutely staggered that students, seemingly in the name of Palestinian rights, can just go into a university building, occupy it, and that means other students who just want to get on with their education, which they're paying for, aren't able to.
Yeah, and unfortunately we're seeing this across the whole country. It's not just me. I have friends at all universities across the whole country, and unfortunately this is something that's occurring everywhere.
Do you have any advice for the staff at Goldsmiths?
For the staff, I would say listen out, look out for everyone out there, look out for the Jewish students, hear what they have to say. For Jewish students, be proud of your identity. At points I questioned wearing a Magen David. I questioned whether I could talk about my political belief, my pin badges on my rucksack. And actually, I wish I was prouder. Like going to my graduation, loads of people walked on stage with Free Palestine flags. And I remember in the sea of crowd of people, I was like, this is my graduation, I should be proud. And I wish I was prouder about kind of being Jewish, where I was from. So be proud.
You just said at your graduation you saw people walking on stage with flags of the Palestinian Authority. What do you think would have happened if you walked on stage with the flag of the State of Israel?
So I did walk on stage with a big Free the Hostage necklace, and during my photos the man turned it round, and my family, I was very lucky to have them there, turned it back round so it was on display. But I reckon I would have been booed off stage. I wouldn't have been welcome. and actually it was isolating to go there, and actually to bring my family into that space was really concerning.
As you know, following on from the anti-Semitism inquiry, Goldsmiths have released their plan of action, which they say they will be implementing over the coming years. How hopeful are you about this plan of action?
I always like to say I'm optimistic, but unfortunately I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't know what changes they're going to make. The fact that it's taken them this long to even recognise anti-Semitism, and now they have this plan of action with points that I feel like are partially meaningless. I don't know how much change it's going to do. Institutionally, they need to kind of recognise and hear voices of Jewish students. They really need to listen, hear what we have to say, hear how we felt, and then start.
It was clear that Jane was still deeply hurt and feeling betrayed by her university, which she feels ought to be a safe space for all students. Although I had read the Goldsmiths report and was already familiar with our polling data, I found myself affected by Jane's testimony. Facts and figures are one thing, but having a Jewish student break down just how frightened and ostracised she felt throughout her university experience was both shocking and appalling. I wanted to speak with someone who had more experience assisting Jewish students across Britain. I turned to Sarah, CAA's Education and Outreach Officer, to hear her perspective on the matter.
I think particularly in the past few years, I've learned just how widespread the problem of anti-Semitism on campuses. I mean, this isn't something which just exists online or on social media. We've seen this feed into classrooms, into lecture theatres, protests on campus weekly, and I think for many Jewish students this is becoming their whole university experience, and that's really sad. And it's not just students, we've seen this from staff at universities as well.
So in your role, you will have spoken to a lot of students. Can you tell me a bit about what they're feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix of emotions really. On the one hand, I think they're feeling pretty scared and hurt, let down from fellow students, classmates, even teachers who have really failed them. But then, on the other hand, there's a lot of pride and solidarity in the feeling that they want to express their Jewish identity on campus, and they can. And they especially should do so during troubling times. So you really see both, and all responses are important. But I think the bottom line really is that the problem of anti-Semitism in the student world is very real.
So Goldsmiths launched an independent investigation into anti-Semitism at the university, and early this year they released a report of their findings. What did you make of the report?
I mean, it was commendable that the institution did carry out this investigation and take out this inquiry. It's important that institutions hold themselves accountable. But the report itself, I mean, the findings were shocking, and actually I really don't think it went far enough. There weren't really any mention of the disciplinary measures that the university should enter into going forward to make sure that this never happens again. There weren't really any clear signs of accountability of the different groups involved.
I came across another issue in the report. In a mystifying decision, one of the recommendations in the report calls on Goldsmiths to adopt two competing definitions of anti-Semitism. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, commonly known as the IRA definition and considered the de facto definition of anti-Semitism worldwide, and the Jerusalem Declaration, which was created as a response to the former in order to undermine the globally recognized IRA definition. Do you think it's confusing to have two examples of anti-Semitism that seemingly contradict each other, with one, the IRA definition, basically being this globally recognized definition that's been adopted by Western democracies and universities and institutions across the globe, and then you have the Jerusalem Declaration, which is basically this sort of fringe definition. If you're a Jewish student here, or the parent of a Jewish student, is that going to be sort of confusing for you?
Oh, of course. It's so confusing. I think it leaves Jewish students feeling as though they can't define their own experiences of racism. It leaves Jewish students and staff feeling as though if they do call out something for being anti-Semitic, then somebody might turn around and say, oh, well, actually, according to this definition, it's not. I think it will create a constant battle and contradiction. That means we can never really have a clear path to progress.
Do you have a message to any students who might be starting this year?
My message to all Jewish students would be, remember that university is meant to be a fun and enriching experience, and it honestly will be. But if they do encounter any anti-Semitism, then know that they can contact us, and you can reach us on email at education@antisemitism.org. So we're here to support them every step of the way and make sure that anti-Semitism at university is not a problem for them.
As I reflected on my conversations with Jane and Sarah, I was reminded of another conversation I had with someone else over 2 years ago, Professor David Hirsch, an expert on anti-Semitism, who also just happens to be the senior lecturer in sociology at Goldsmiths. His experiences of being Jewish at the university were made public, and it was shortly after the president of Goldsmiths Student Union accused him of being a far-right white supremacist that the anti-Semitism investigation was announced. I interviewed David on an episode of Podcast Against Antisemitism. This is what he had to say at the time.
What happened was that I made some straightforward arguments against the campaign to boycott Israel, Israeli academia in particular, and against anti-Semitism. And then suddenly I was transformed from being one of those people to being not one of those people. And I was treated broadly in academia and within the discipline as not a sociologist, but a Zionist sociologist. And in that vocabulary, Zionist means racist. I tweeted in response to somebody that there is an anti-Semitic edge to these official campaigns of decolonization of the curriculum, something which will be seen to legitimize campaigns of going through reading lists and taking out the Zionists. I think certainly might become anti-Semitic. So I said there is an anti-Semitic edge to these campaigns of decolonization, and somebody else replied, probably the tweeter themselves replied, you're a racist. Like, if you oppose campaigns of decolonization, you're a racist. And then the president of our Students' Union piled in and said, David Hirsch is a far-right white supremacist, which is more than a racist, actually. A far-right white supremacist sounds to me like Nazi. There are not many Jews at Goldsmiths, and it seems to me there's a reason for that too, which is that Jews, unless they are from a particular kind of anti-Zionist political tradition, probably know, at least think they know by reputation in advance, not to apply to Goldsmiths. So that's also something that I think the inquiry has to get to grips with, really, is not only what happens at Goldsmiths, but why and how it has this reputation and what that means about the exclusion, or a kind of soft exclusion of Jews not coming anyway.
Behind me, happy graduates of Goldsmiths 2025. The ceremony you see behind me celebrates joy, a monumental achievement. Now, whether the Jewish students here are just as happy or more relieved to be done, I don't know. What I do know is that as we begin a new term, we need to see real progress at Goldsmiths. Jewish students, their families, and the country are all expecting real change. There has been a damning scandal, very serious report. So now we wait to see if action will be implemented or if it's just all talk.